Well, hello, everyone. It is December 23rd. This is our last first time buyer market update for Southern California of the year. We're going to do our regular home market update a week from today, which will be the last one for that of the year. And looking through the stats, I'm trying to think about what should the theme for 2026 be. And I keep coming back to this notion of affordability and what will be the inevitable market solution to the affordability crisis. And looking at the numbers, I'm beginning to think that 2026 is going to be the year of the condo. Let's get started. My name is Stephen Meade with Domicile Real Estate here in Southern California, where we are on a mission to help California's renters become homeowners. And this is our Southern California first time buyer market update. I'm in a hoodie today. It kind of just feels like a hoodie sort of day. So no apologies on that. I'm comfortable. I hope you're comfortable too. Let's go ahead and start jumping into the stats. And I'll tell you why this is really starting to look like 2026 is going to be the year for condos. Okay, so if we come back and we look at our closed prices, I think it's readily apparent that the reality is the condo market has been softer than the single family market, especially at this entry level end of the market. So, what is this chart showing? Again, this is our closed prices for the first quartile. So that is if the median is halfway between the bottom and the top, this is halfway between the bottom and the median. I think that's a good approximation for entry level. And this is LA and Orange counties. Our blue line is entry level single family homes, and our red line is entry level condos. You see, we have dipped to $525,000 there. And to be honest, what's interesting about this is if you look where this number was in 2018, in June of 2018, this number was $397,000. And that is really a much different scenario than we see here on our entry level single family home, which in June of 2018, that was $545,000, and today it is $795,000. Really, condos haven't seen the same appreciation. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Probably the biggest one is just that condos have taken a bit of a beating in terms of special assessments, lack of transparency in the dues, the balcony issues. Some of these big things have really kept these condo prices down. I actually think that's a really good thing if you're a first-time home buyer. It means there is still kind of a bit of land which hasn't been grabbed yet on that front. And I think there's a lot of upside opportunities going forward. So if we look at our total monthly payment, I think this is the part that's really somewhat shocking to me, right? Is if you look at that entry-level condo payment based on 5% down, mortgage insurance, taxes, HOA fee, we're at just over $4,000 a month. That is not terribly out of line with where we're seeing a lot of two-bedroom condo rents, especially in more desirable areas. So that differential is not as big as it once was. And in fact, if you look at 2018, this was $2,900, right? Was our total monthly payment around that point in time. So really, we're not seeing things be terribly out of control versus what is now, 6.5 or 7.5 years ago. Total minimum household income required. Again, I kind of want to harp on this. Look at where this number is. This is household income if you have no other debt. The minimum qualifying is around $98,000 on that entry level condo. That means two wage earners at $50,000 a year would be in that qualifying box. So this is not completely out of line with the reality of would-be home buyers. It is not impossible to buy and own a home in Southern California. It is very possible, especially if you're willing to have a little bit of flexibility. If we look at our 14-day absorption rate, don't get completely bent out of shape out of this. As we head towards the end of the year, what ends up happening is people are still buying houses and nobody's putting them on the market. What does that do? It really offsets that absorption rate. It kicks it up higher than it would be. You can see if we look last year here, we're at 99%. The day before Christmas, we're a little higher this year. Does that mean it's a little more competitive? Maybe. I wouldn't put too much stock in that. I think we're seeing very similar levels of competition, though you'll notice in general, the market actually did seem to almost pick up a bit, especially in the single families towards the end of the year. Condo market remains soft. If we look at our total inventory, right, this is another one that I think is interesting is, our entry level single family home inventory, that's not terribly off where we were at last year. And I think this is different than our whole market updates, right? In our whole market updates, there's definitely been an increase of inventory. But at this lower end of inventory, we're really just not seeing quite as much there. So we're seeing, these things, these 3 bedroom, 2 bath homes, we're seeing more rarity at that entry level end of the scale with about the same number of units. Condos, the inventory is a bit higher than it was at last year on the entry level. Again, I think that's partly why you're seeing this more favorable pricing, especially when compared to the single family homes. If you look at our 14-day still active percentage, that has also taken a dive. But again, that's not uncommon in the sort of last couple of weeks of the year, right? And likewise, the first couple of weeks of the year, we're going to see a huge influx of inventory, which will kick these numbers the other way. If we look at our week supply of homes, right, I think that's what's interesting to me is watching where this number is. And the reality is the condo market, and you can see this difference here. The blue line is single family homes, right? We are ending the year with 8.5 weeks of inventory. Where were we at this point last year? About 8 weeks of relative inventory. So pretty much in the same boat. But look at the difference on the condo market. We were at about 14 and a half weeks last year. We were at over 18 weeks this year. I think that condo market is absolutely softer. And again, when everyone is complaining that homes aren't affordability, I look to the soft markets, right? Like that's the place you want to be if you're a value conscious buyer, for somebody trying to get into your first place. And I think there's a lot of ways to go into that condo market. You just really need someone who has a bit more expertise in that area to review the documents, assess the HOA. I want to talk a little bit about some of this advice again, and I try to look for the places that people aren't always looking. And whenever I see a market has some softness in it, again, I'm saying, is that an opportunity for certain buyers, right? If certain buyers want to take advantage of that. And I do think we're going to see some of these opportunities continue in 2026. A lot of the problems that these condo communities are facing, I think they are temporary problems in nature. We're seeing a lot more calls for transparency in that space. We're seeing a lot more come to light. Buyers are getting smarter. And I think as that happens, that confidence will build and that price differential will begin to shrink again between condos and single family homes. But in the meantime, it's definitely a great opportunity. Anyhow, happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everyone. This will be our last update before that holiday period. We'll see you again next week for another video, but just wanted to thank everyone for a great year. Thank you for watching. Don't be afraid to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And of course, if you or someone you know is thinking of purchasing a home here in Southern California, we would absolutely love to lend you our expertise. Thanks so much. We'll see you again real soon.